Hello friends, welcome to Fabric Anatomy featuring Piecework. Today I'm going to be showing you each and every print in my newest collection for Anna Maria Textiles, and it's completely inspired by my love of traditional patchwork. Now you might not think of me as a traditional patchworker, but in my 20 years now of making quilts, I have come to love traditional blocks more and more and more every year. And I really felt like I wanted to even create a collection of fabric that honors those very special and in most cases very simple styles of blocks, but they're in fabric form, which is really kind of fun. So I want to show you the artwork for each of these pieces as well as break it down into the colors. We're going to talk a little bit about value in terms of how light and dark things are, and we're going to step into some of the piecework projects that we've made over the past couple of months, getting them all ready to share with you now that everything's out in stores, so it's super exciting. But first, the art. So each and every print is actually inspired by a different traditional block. The first one that I'm going to show you is the log cabin. Each of the prints is actually called the name of the block. So this print is called log cabin. You can see that it's this teeny tiny little scale, which is actually very new for me. I think that this whole block is actually maybe just an inch. We have it in this bright, fun colorway. We have it in this more primary colorway. And then I also have it in this paler, more earthy tones, which has an almost black in there. The next print is flying geese. And are all the flying geese flying in the same direction? They are, but you can cut them up and head them in whatever direction you like. So we have this beautiful pale tone. We have these pretty greens and purples, and we have a bit more multicolored with some kind of glowy corals and a nice pale forest green in that one. Okay, this one I didn't actually call the name of the block. I called this one Oh My Stars, because I love that saying. This one is just repeating star pattern, sort of like a hexagonal pattern that's been turned into a star. I'm sure that has a name in quilt world. I'm not recalling it at the moment. I had the pleasure of working with Minnie Lee Deacon on a collaboration. She was, at the time we worked together, I think she was 93, and we worked on a quilt pattern that was made from this block. It was a real honor to meet her. She's a legend in Tennessee as a quilter. There's a light color version of that as well, which I really like. Let's get back to the scale of these. Here's a 9 patch. The scale of these is really, really tiny. So in that sense, they actually sort of can behave like a blender. You can put them very easily in between larger, less geometric things. Like you can put them with florals, you can put them with feature prints. Here's a really pale one. And I have really been enjoying trying things I've never tried before in this new fabric division that we are working on. One thing I do like about this small scale print, it is small scale, making it really adaptable to combine with your larger scale prints. But it has so many colors, which is really unique for tiny scales. Most tiny kind of blender style fabrics have 2, 3, maybe 4 colors. Most of these have about 16 colors. 1 or 2 have 18 colors. My friend Ruthie referred to these recently as maximalist basics, which I thought was very apt. Definitely the type of basic I would be excited about making. I love this one. It's all on this nice creamy white background. That's all the art. You can see that there are lots of favorite traditional blocks that have been honored. Maybe in the comments you should leave me an idea in case I ever do a second version of this collection. Maybe there's some blocks that you would like to see in a piecework collection. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to organize these all by value, which is sort of how our beautiful fat quarter bundles are organized. And you can see that there's a big range of pale fabrics, medium tone fabrics, and deep dark ones. And that's really going to help you when you're planning some uses for these in your patchwork. Here we go. All right, so we have the whole piecework collection organized by value. Now, when I use the word value, I'm talking about how light or dark a thing is. So you can see I've got my lightest pieces on this end, and they slowly transition through more medium tones and into the darkest tones. A couple of these are close enough. You could probably swap. This is where sometimes you might want to get out that black and white filter on your camera to take a photo. Like for instance, if you're doing patchwork where you're really organizing it by value so that you get a certain graphic effect, you can use the black and white mode on your camera so that you stop looking at color and only look at how light or dark a thing is. But the way that I have them laid out here, it suits me and my ideas of value for this collection. A couple of these could probably swap. And I want to give you just a quick little lesson on creating impact just with these fabrics right here. If you were going to create a patchwork with these and you wanted to create a lot of impact, you would combine pieces next to each other that are higher contrast. So like, let's say we took the very lightest piece and we combined it with the very darkest one. That's going to have a lot of visual impact, right? Maybe you don't like that tone with it because this is more of a grassy green over here and this is more like jewel toned. Maybe you want something to be more jewel toned and rich. You can still create a lot of impact by pulling one of the more bright colorful ones with that, if that sort of blends together better for you. This one is a bit more soft. This one is probably sitting in my vintage colorway. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But that's just a quick lesson on creating impact. You can do that very dramatically like we just did, or you can also do it very subtly. This actually would create a lot of impact as well because there's not just a big difference in value here, but there's also a big difference in the color. It's on the opposite side of the color wheel. You sort of have a blue-orange thing happening. So that's about as high impact as you can get. So if you want the fabrics to sit next to each other a little bit more harmoniously and more blended, you can kind of stay in the range of things that are sort of closer together. Like these two are sort of closer to the middle. They're a bit more medium. So there's going to be a difference between them, but it's not quite so severe. Okay, so that's a quick little lesson in value here. So I'm going to reorganize those now into the 3 colorways. Be right back. And we are back with colorways. So I've got these organized into the 3 different colorways of Anna Maria Textiles. The first one being vintage. You can see over my shoulder that I've got all the vintage fabrics from the first release up on that top shelf. The second one here is cherry, and the bottom one is lush. You've heard me talk about the colorways before. The vintage is probably what you would expect. It's a little more muted, but it has some of those nice acidic greens and yellows and some of the softer, fleshier pinks with some accents of black or orange here and there. And then cherry is very joyful and jubilant and other J words that describe fun and happy. Then lush is a bit deeper and more jewel toned. What I'm gonna do is kind of show you how these work actually with my basics collection, the indelible collection that I showed you in my last episode, just to show you the kind of difference of 2 different styles of basics. So in the last episode, I shared all the 2 color fabrics of indelible, and I just want to show you what that looks like together both in the vintage palette. So you can see that sort of happy family that this all creates, but how differently they're doing sort of the same thing. Both of them really suit being paired together with more illustrative fabrics, and to illustrate that point, because I love an illustration, I've snuck in a little piece that's not coming for a while, the next release, but you can see how pretty it is with this vintage palette and with this vintage palette. So that's that guy. Okay, let's have a look at cherry. So fun, so poppy, so colorful and bright. The colors are very clear. I'm gonna pull in the indelible fabric in the same color palette. Very bright, very clear and beautiful. And you can see how that's all working together. You can see the kind of mood that this is creating. It's a very fun one. The fabric that's coming up in Iconic in a month or so is absolutely beautiful as a contrast with these bright colors. So this is a really different sort of feel for a direction in patchwork. This really helps guide you toward a specific mood or feeling with the cherry palette. And finally, we have the lush palette. This piece right here is probably my absolute favorite of the whole collection. Let's have a look at that with the indelible lush palette. It's beautiful. I knew it would be. Also happy together. Let's look at it with a nice large scale print. Then the third colorway, the Lush colorway from Iconic in this lifespan print. Look how stunning that is. We've picked up on so many of the similar tones, but there's still all these little bright, glimmering contrasts that might encourage you to walk over to another palette and grab those. All right, let's talk projects. I made a beautiful quilt that's very traditional in terms of the patchwork styles, but it's very colorful. I combined the Piecework printed collection with the 12 solids that I've chosen this season from Northcott's beautiful solids. It goes really well with this collection as well as Indelible and Iconic and other collections that are out this season. All the blocks that are shown in these pieces of fabric are also used in the quilt. So we have this beautiful 12-page guide, and if you buy the physical copy in your local quilt shop or your favorite online shop, it's also going to have some acrylic templates in there for you to use, primarily for those English paper piecing stars and the hexagons. I also wanted to share these darling bags from our friends at Zaka Workshop. Look how cute these are. Okay, I have the patterns here. So these two are the wireframe purse. The scale of these and the scale of the print is just so stinking cute together. Look at that cute contrast. Oh my gosh. Let's see what's on the inside of this one. Also adorable. Such a fun contrast. I actually love how that goes with the zipper. How clever to put the selvage on that little strap. This is the stylish sewing tote. So it's got these little outer pockets so you can keep some of your supplies in there. We also have this cute little dress. I showed just a snippet of this dress in the last video. This is my Shake It Shift. It's a very basic kind of 60s mod style dress that looks good on so many figures. If you tell me you don't wear sleeveless, well, you probably wear cardigans. So I don't like stuffing sleeves into a cardigan, but I do like wearing a cardigan over sleeveless. Don't put yourself out of the running to make this cute dress. I've made this in just about every fabric collection that I do because it's such a basic, simple shape. A-line, zipper back, darts on the side, but I added these really fun details from the Indelible collection with a little EPP applique, and I made a little pinwheel pocket. I just thought that the combination of the Piecework print as the base of the dress, expanding that same pinwheel design into the pocket was like really fun. Outside of the projects that we have shown here, forgot about this one. That one's really cute. Little coin purse. What's inside? Look, so cute. I also just thought I would mention that I became so obsessed with these little prints that I decided to put them on sets of journals. There's 60 blank pages in these journals. There's one in each of the different prints. This is a set of 3 and this is a set of 3. But they're just these very simple blank journals that I like having around to jot down notes, ideas, drawings, recipes, garden plans, whatever you can think of. You can get those at annamariaperry.com, and they'll also be available in stores soon. So if you're a shop, that'll be at annamariapatterns.com for you to bring in for your customers. I think that shows the whole shebang with Piecework. I hope you are loving the collection, and I cannot wait to see what you make out of it. Thanks for joining.